My Favorite Brain Part by Cass-Fuchs. The cerebellum is my favorite brain part. It's also Latin for the little brain. It is positioned posterior, inferior to the cerebral cortex. The anatomical divisions within the cerebellum have 3 distinct lobes arranged by their individual functions, separated by 2 fissures. The fissures that anatomically separate these lobes are the primary fissure and the posterolateral fissure. The outer surface of the cerebellum is known as the arbor vitae, which translates to the tree of life. The functional divisions within the cerebellum and the functional anatomy have 3 separate divisions, leading into motor execution, motor planning, balance, and eye movements. The actions in the cerebellum involve receiving information from the sensory systems, the spinal cord, and the other parts of the brain, and then regulating motor movements. It coordinates voluntary movements such as posture, balance, coordination, and speech, resulting in smooth and balanced muscular activity. It also participates in cognitive functions such as memory and learning. Past research suggests only role indicated was motor activity. The cerebellar cortex is comprised of several types of 5 major nerve cells and 3 main neuronal fibers, such as the Purkinje cell. Information travels to and from the cerebellum, the brain's center of motor control, and other parts of the brain involved in learning, but most of the neural circuits are outbound. Mapping the human cerebellum. Truly, it is the little brain. And looking at the imaging here, the cerebellum engages in multiple tasks and processes, such as motor tasks, working memory, emotion, social processing tasks, language, and social overlap. Cerebellum maps being created at hospitals and universities are very interesting. The most recent research and findings show 2 parts of the cerebellum are concurrently engaged in motor tasks, while 3 other parts of the cerebellum are concurrently engaged in non-motor tasks, which is recent research findings. The cerebellum can also be referred to as the little brain or the down brain. The cerebrum can be referred to as the big brain or the up brain. The up brain can also be thought of as the thinking, deciding brain, the rational, human, declarative memory, conscious memory, lyrics, superego, and quite perhaps the reality brain, versus the down brain, or cerebellum brain, the doing, feeling brain, emotional, animal-like, implicit muscle memory, unconscious memory, our music brain, id, and dream. Research in brain mapping is very, very interesting. Wow, it actually does so much more than coordinate voluntary movements such as posture, balance, coordination, and speech. The cerebellum also has a role in memory, cognition, and emotion. The cerebellum has multiple different types and kinds of disorders, dysfunctions, and diseases. There is daily and updated ongoing research being completed with fascinating findings. A bit on Friedreich's ataxia, otherwise known as FRDA, a genetic progressive neurodegenerative movement disorder. Typical age onset between 10 and 15 years old. Typical initial symptoms include unsteady posture, frequent falling, progressive difficulty in gait, impaired ability to coordinate voluntary movements. Other physical issues can manifest and present. Symptoms and clinical findings are associated with FRDA result primarily from degenerative changes in the sensory nerve fibers at the point where they enter the spinal cord in structures known as dorsal root ganglia. This results in secondary degeneration of nerve fibers in the spinal cord, which leads to a deficiency of sensory signals to the cerebellum. This is obviously the part of the brain that helps to coordinate the voluntary movements, and FRDA is caused by abnormalities in the FXN gene And people with FRDA inherit a mutation from each parent, so they have mutations in both copies of their FXN gene. Are you missing your cerebellum? Very rare, yet true. Cerebellar agenesis. This picture is of a 24-year-old female born without a cerebellum, one in approximately 9 people in the world. Worth a share and further research. I find it fascinating. A few fun facts about the cerebellum. It's the largest part of the hindbrain. It lies behind the pons of the medulla, forming the roof of the fourth ventricle. It has about 10% of the brain volume, over 50% of all the brain's neurons, and it coordinates bilateral hand coordination. Your take-home message: take responsibility for the energy you bring into this space. From Dr. Taylor. Thank you.